Guys, this is Jo Kelly from the Instinctive Actors Society. Um, Welcome. If you're not a member of the Instinctive Actors Society yet, I'm inviting you to join it. It's free, it's full of free training, and you get to ask me your direct questions and I answer them. So we can look at your specific situation and challenges as an actor or as an artist, and we can work on them. Today we're going to be talking about the sensation of flow and whether you have difficulties accessing a state of flow when you act or when you sing, because I know that in our community there's not only actors but singers, musicians, storytellers, other type of artists too. So let's look at what flow actually means for a little bit. So the way I like to describe it is a sensation that is like bigger than yourself, that is bigger than what you know. When you access a state of flow, it's like suddenly a new world opens up, a world that you didn't even know existed. So in the case of acting, it would be you suddenly entering a world in which you don't know what you're going to say, and yet you know your text. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're feeling, but that moment by moment, you're literally discovering what it is you feel and sense and say in the moment, just like when you're alive, right? So it's an incredible sensation. It's really creative. It's like being fully alive. It's like being rather than acting, because when you act, you might have a tendency to find yourself controlling or knowing what you're going to do, and that is not as satisfactory. Is that a word? I'm not sure. It doesn't give you as much satisfaction and fulfillment or impact for your audience as being in a state of flow, which is really like everything syncs up. You and those words that you're saying, you and the character, you in the room, you and the partner. Suddenly, something bigger than all the elements acting together in that room is being created, and is just such a delicious sensation. You would finish the scene and then go, what happened? Like, you forget about yourself, you forget that you're auditioning or that you're actually shooting a scene, you forget about time, you have no idea how long it lasted, you don't even know what you said. So some people call that the zone, other people call that a sensation of flow. And then when you're in that flow, you're really just on the edge of life and you have no idea what's coming, and you couldn't possibly repeat it and redo it because it's so alive. It's just a stream of life going through you, and it's just like a river. You jump into it and you follow it, but you're not in any way directing what's happening. So it's really like life, where you're just inside of it. And it's such a delicious sensation as an actor or as a performer, of course, being in the flow, because there's no effort, there's no hard work. It really is easy. So the problem that most actors encounter with flow, at least when they reach out to me and ask, or when they start working with me, is that they know of flow. And you might have had this experience too. You might have experienced flow when you act. And oftentimes I hear actors say, I've only felt it once, or a couple times to the max. And that's so sad, of course, because you are alive, because you are in this profession to bring all of the aliveness that you have to the character, into the moment. And that's why you do this job, is to feel that level of, pure life and being in the nectar of life. And so if you never feel it, then what is it that you do feel? It's the control, the struggle, the planning, the knowing how it's gonna work out, knowing how the scene is going to go. And that's like a very, very shrunk version of what's possible for you in the moment. So that can be very frustrating. And a lot of times when actors reach out to me to start working with me, they'll say, you know, I want it. I want to be able to get in that state to flow every single time. And I totally understand. And you should want that because it's possible, because you have it all the time. So what actors usually do when in order to work on that is they'll take more classes, and maybe you can recognize yourself in this. You'll take class after class, and then you'll try and look for the bigger and bigger mentors and the bigger and bigger teachers. And you'll look for parallel class. You might do some voice or some movement or some camera or some this or that. There's so many things out there in order to get better at the flow. But actually the thing about it is there's nothing to get better. There's nothing to improve. You not being able to be in the flow is actually not the problem. What the problem is so there's your instrument, your mind, your soul, your heart, your emotions, your sensations, your feelings, etc. And then there is a level of resistance, a thick layer of resistance that surrounds you. And that is what is preventing you to be there in reality, in the real life, in the flow. That is what is preventing you to dive into that river that is constantly there. The moment is constantly there, and the next one and the next one. What prevents you from jumping into that moment and being in the flow of moment after moment is that you're stuck inside this resistance, this thick layer of resistance that is literally tying up your instrument. So the problem is not that you're unable to access the flow. The problem is that you have resistance that's all around you that prevents you from even thinking about going into the flow. So the problem is the resistance. It's not you needing to get better. You're perfect under that resistance. And what is the resistance made of? It's really like, you know, you holding in sensations and emotions. It's you playing it safe. It's you people pleasing. It's you being in a survival mode. It's you protecting yourself against failure, against being wrong, absolutely needing to be right, because you're afraid that you're going to be judged, you're going to be hurt, you're not going to be liked. I really have heard actors who have started working with me saying, I'm afraid of casting directors. I'm afraid they'll hurt me. I'm afraid they'll shout at me. I'm afraid they'll beat me up, which is, they know is crazy and would never happen. And yet the fear is there. And when that kind of fear is there and you don't work on that, you don't look at that, you don't start digging in there and working on that, you're working inside of that bubble. And there is no way that you will be like diving into the river when you're actually dealing with that kind of survival type of fear. So the reason that you have this resistance, of course, is because the way that we've all been raised in our culture and in our time has really been like, we've been raised to behave, to think, to be, to feel, to all be the same and to all behave in a certain way. Like you've been boxed, right? You've been boxed to fit the rest of the puzzle. So I'm not here to say, oh, mean parents mean school or anything. It's just what it is. And unfortunately, it's starting to change, but unfortunately, it's been what it's been. Factory schooling since after the Industrial Revolution. And the way that this formats and this wires our instrument is, there is only one way to behave that is right and that is good. And if I don't do that, there are consequences, because in the way that we've been raised at home and at school was a model that came with authority, right? And authority means that there's scary consequences. You can be shamed, you can be hurt, you can be hit, you can be emotionally bruised. So it's a scary place to go to not exactly behave like you've been told to. So when this is repeated to you since you're a child, and you're being told what to feel and what specifically not to feel, so to not be angry, to not cry in public, to not be too loud when you're happy, when you're being told exactly what to do 7 hours straight at school, to sit down, to not talk, to pee when you're told, to eat when you're told, to not have opinions, to accept and learn what you're being told to learn without you having a say in how you want to be educated and what you're interested in. All of that wires your brain repeatedly, you know, day after day, hour after hour, in a certain way, which is to always aim for being right in order to avoid the consequences, because that's what you've been told. So it makes perfect sense for you to do that. So that's the resistance. That's what your resistance is made of. You're resisting the rest of your humanity. You're resisting what's been taken away. They've said, okay, get rid of all those feelings and of all the thinking and of all the stuff you want and just do what you're told, right? And if you don't, it might get ugly. So you drink the Kool-Aid and you do it because not doing it wouldn't be safe for you. So now you're an actor, and this is how you train your engine, and therefore your engine will resist everything else that is not right. But when it comes to acting, there is no right. That flow that you felt once or twice, you can't get to it by being right, because there is no right. There's a billion rights. There's only a you version of doing the scenes, your unique way of approaching a character in a moment that is made up of everything that you are, your bright emotions, your darker emotions, everything that you are. So if you are interested in connecting more with that river, with that flow, with that infinite, you know, potential and worlds opening up when you're in the moment, what you first have to take care of is that thick layer of resistance that masks, ties up, and prevents your instrument from being here in the first place, right? So I will put a free training in the comments so that you can have access to that. And if you have questions, you can put them in the Instinctive Actor Society. That's where I answer the questions. Bye, guys.